Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the channel. On today's video, we're going to be discussing how to increase your overall sales by 50% if you are a service-based business. I'm going to be mapping out a case study that I recently experienced with one of my customers where we helped them to improve their overall sales rate by over 50% in less than 60 days. And I'm going to be mapping out step by step some of the things that you need to be paying attention to as business owners and some things that you need to consider inside of your sales process for you to be able to replicate these kind of results. Let's jump into things. All right, you guys. So first and foremost, I want to kind of lay a little bit of foundation for why I'm deciding to shoot this video. Recently, I had a client, they're a doctor, and they sell a service where they don't take insurance and they charge $2,000 for 4 appointments with the doctor up front. Typically, when that ends up happening, it then goes to weekly meetings with the doctor. They're basically in value of about, per patient is roughly worth about $24,000 per year. Now, what ended up happening is because of the changes that were about to map out here in this training, they have been able to, over the last 60 days, increase their overall closing rate on the leads that they're getting by over 50%. This means for this particular business is they're driving an additional $40,000 per month in revenue for the small doctor's office just because of these changes that are actually being made. So the way that I want to tackle this video is I kind of want to map out some things that were not happening that if you're in the service-based industry, you should be really paying attention to. And then we're going to kind of map out the sales process of what we changed in order to improve their overall closing rate. So the first point that I want to discuss is that most likely if you're in a service-based business, your front desk is killing your business. Here's what I mean by that. And I'm experiencing this over and over again with service-based type of businesses that I work with. And this is what's ending up happening. You've got somebody at the front desk who is paid as an hourly or a salary person who is fielding calls and basically just jumping on with potential leads or prospects saying, yeah, okay, here's how we work. Here's the price. I'll send you out an invoice. They're completely ruining your business from the sales that could be happening if you had a halfway decent sales process. So the first thing that I want to make sure that we're recognizing is that anybody or any service-based business owner that has a front desk and they're communicating with new potential clients, customers, whatever your product or service is you need to redefine the way that they think about their job and the way that you look at them as an employee. They are a sales individual, not somebody that's an office manager, not somebody that just takes calls at the front desk. They need to be sales oriented. So the first thing that we did with this customer is we got rid of this person that was just taking phone calls and basically just giving out prices with no real structure, found an individual that was more sales oriented. And step number 3, we created a compensation that motivated them in order to be tied to the business performance. They know their role is to help manage the business, but they're also very, very sales oriented and paid well when they're actually closing deals. So that was the big shift that we had to make with this business is that they were just looking at glorified phone call receptionists versus actual sales reps. Most likely this is happening inside of your business. You need to redefine the way that you think or communicate to any of your staff that talks to new potential customers. They are sales reps. They're not just office managers or front desk people. The next thing that we had to really dial in is really making sure that the business understood their KPIs. They had all kinds of phone calls coming in. They didn't know how many phone calls were coming in on a daily basis. They didn't know what their contact rate was. They didn't understand how fast they were communicating with new leads. And they weren't sure as to whether or not they were getting back with everybody that actually called in. So you got to understand what your numbers look like, how many leads that you have coming in on a daily basis, how many you're communicating, how many you're closing, how many you're rolling into your business. Get laser focused on knowing your numbers and making sure that the business or the front desk is actually tied to those numbers from a compensation plan so that they can make more money as you make more money as a business. Trust me, the minute that you start incentivizing people that are sales oriented to close more deals and to give them an actual structure and to focus on the numbers, they are going to start performing because let's call it what it is. In reality, you told them that you were an office manager or somebody to just field the calls and kind of guide them through the process. They're salespeople. Okay, so once we made those big shifts, found sales-oriented people, started focusing on the actual numbers, being aware of what the numbers actually were, and really hiring people that are more sales-oriented and realizing that every phone call that comes in, you've got to have a fantastic sales process with. Then what we started to do is to script out the actual process. Because what was happening is somebody was receiving a call. Hey, okay, great. I'm looking for this kind of doctor. All right, awesome. Here's what we charge. Here's how much it is. Would you like to buy? It was horrible. It was the worst sales process. It was literally tanking their capability as a business. So then what we did is we implemented a specific process. Let's go over that right now because that may apply to how your business or any service-based business for that matter. This is the type of structure that should be implemented. So step number one, what we did is we made sure that the person that was fielding the call immediately created rapport. We wanted the person to connect with the individual. Rather than just calling into a doctor's office and saying, okay, how can I help you? What are you looking for? It was, oh, hey, what's your name? Where are you from? Fantastic. How are you? We wanted to create rapport right out of the gate. That was step number one. Step number two is that we wanted to make sure that we understand what the needs of the person or what mattered most to the individual that was calling in. Not just order taking, but actually asking them, well, tell me a little bit more about you. What matters most to you and what are you trying to accomplish? The minute that you find out what matters most to people and then you solve those problems, that's when the true sales process starts to happen. The third thing that we did is we wanted to make sure that once we understood what mattered most to them is what they were wanting to accomplish. We wanted to understand what the outcome was, what they wanted to see have happen. So step number four was to ask the prospect how much they understood about the particular product or service that they were calling in about. If they've ever purchased or used this kind of service before, you want to make sure that you understand what the familiarity, so to speak, of your service and if they've ever purchased your kind of service beforehand. If they're new to actually purchasing your type of services or products, then you can guide the prospect on what makes you different from your competition and why they should actually choose you. So step number five is really to explain the differences, explaining here's how this industry works, here's why we do what we do, explain your unique selling proposition. You don't necessarily have to be better than everybody else, but you just have to be different and you have to have a different approach and explain to them why that's better for them based off of the information that you've gathered so far. Step number seven, now we wanted to, depending on the type of service-based business that you have, you do want to understand what kind of budget the actual customer is dealing with. That way, if they say something incredibly high, we know that we have something that we can deal with. If they say a budget that's really, really low, you can give them options and explain to them how much it typically costs so that we can put them in a better buying state. So getting a better idea of where the customer is at financially was a big move because it wasn't even happening in this particular business. They weren't even talking about, tell me a little bit about your budget, what's actually happening. Step number 8 is then close them on the next steps. So now, as you can tell, you guys, we've mapped out a way better process for this particular doctor where they were really connecting a rapport with the customer. They were really finding out what their wants were. We were really understanding what their desired destination was. We gave them a lay of the land explanation as far as, well, here's how the industry works. Here's why we're different. Here's why our clients really love us and to get the best results. Getting a better feel potentially for the budget wasn't a major issue for this particular client that I'm talking about, but in a lot of service-based industries, that is important. Then explain to them the actual price and close them on the next steps. Just by implementing those simple conversations versus just explaining to somebody the price right out of the gate, they've literally doubled their overall conversions, added an extra $40,000 to their business, and it's been a huge game changer. I can promise you guys this, if you're in a service-based business and your front desk is the main person that's actually fielding all new calls and they're not sales oriented, you need to make some significant shifts because it will impact your business in a real way. Hopefully you found this content helpful. If you have any questions, as always, click the link below, ask a question. Happy to be able to answer it in more detail for you. Take care, guys. We'll talk to you on the next video. Cheers.